If you are a man with kids and a wife, you cannot afford not to sit around and read your Bible. That is where you will find the solution in how to be a great father, how to be a great husband, how to be a great man. Don't believe me? Then I put before you the same challenge God put before me several years ago as a woman. I really did not know if I was coming or going, who in her 30s was still trying to find herself. Although I was a good person and the best mother I could be at that time, I was losing the battle in some aspects as a mother. I was failing my children. Why? Because I didn't really know me. I spent most of my life with my identity tied up in this image as a great athlete, recruited by hundreds of colleges and universities. Some of the top schools in this nation knew who I was. I had the privilege that so many young people didn't have. I could have gone to almost any school that I wanted. I was known almost everywhere I went. People knew my name and called upon it with such great pride. But truly, I had no real identity. As a young person, I was lost. I was lost. At least until the day Christ came into my life and put a challenge before me. For at that point in my life, there was no lights, fanfare, people calling on my name or my jersey number, no recruiters, no one beating down my door because they wanted to take advantage of what skills I had. None of that. I just had one man that I really couldn't see nor touch, whose voice I didn't recognize, saying, "I had something for you that's better." Better. And I'll admit, I didn't believe it. But I had nothing to lose, so I accepted. And you know the only thing he gave me to do? The only instructions he gave me for months was to read my Bible. That was it. Read my Bible. Now, it wasn't like I hadn't read my Bible before, so what would be different about reading my Bible this time? I tell you what was the difference. And it doesn't matter to me whether any of you listening to this believe this or not, because as for me, it changed me. It changed me. The difference was that Christ was with me this go around as I read my Bible day in and day out. After reading a chapter on the first day, he asked me to recite back what I read. I summarized the last 2-3 lines I read. He was like, no, summarize the entire chapter, Deaidre. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. He pointed out to me only read as much as I was able to understand and recall. So he had me read it again. But this time, only the first 15 verses. Again, he asked me to summarize what I read, and I could not do it. So then he told me to read it again, but only the first 5 verses. When I was done, he asked me to tell him about what I just read, and I explained it eloquently. And it was as if he looked upon me with this big Kool-Aid smile on his face. I could feel his approval. For months, that's all I read. 5 verses at a time until I completed a chapter before Jesus showed up months later, instructing me to increase my daily verse reading from 5 verses to 15. Then months later, 15 verses were increased to the entire chapter as I continued the same pattern. I read and recite what I learned from my reading to him. About a year later, to my pleasant surprise, my best friend came to me one day and said, "You have changed. You've grown a lot. I've seen a tremendous difference in you." Now, I wasn't looking to change, but I've learned this is a natural process when you start to read your word daily with Christ. But it took me maybe 2 years before I really could see and feel the difference in myself. I am not the same woman I used to be, and I really like the person I see in the mirror every day. So as I said in the opening, if you are a man with kids and a wife, you can't afford not to sit around and read your Bible. You can't, because it is the difference maker you have been waiting for all your life. In fact, for the first time in my life in about a few months, I will finish reading my entire Bible. In my case, because I've been faithful about doing this, Ephesians chapter 4 is so true concerning myself. Starting at verse 22, it says, "To take off your former way of life, the old self that is corrupted by deceitful desires, to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, the one created according to God's likeness in righteousness and purity of the truth."